right, I think we're ready to get started here. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Softvision Suite's monthly webinar. My name is Megan Morse. I'd like to start off just by thanking you all for joining us today. Our topic of discussion, we will be focused on the new enhancements and features that you will see with our most recent upgrade, which is the 2007 release. As we get started here, just an introduction to our consulting team here. These are the product consultants. We run these monthly webinars for you and are assigned to each of you to just help support and spread system knowledge and best practices. Always feel free to reach out to us if you need any assistance in the system. And we're always looking for any suggestions you may have on topics you may want to hear in future webinars. So keep that in mind as well. You can send that detail to us. Housekeeping reminders as we get started here. Everyone is on mute to reduce any background noise. If you have any questions, we would love to hear from you. We want this session to be as interactive as possible. So use the Q&A window and send us questions or comments. We'll address them throughout the session and have time saved at the end to wrap up. A recording of this webinar, we will send in a follow-up email, a link to this recording, so you can reference this later or share it with your coworkers. You can always access any of our previous webinars on our Freshdesk support site. So under the educational webinars section, there is all of the previous webinars that we've held. We also, you can always access that on the Cognizant Softvision YouTube channel. And we're actually in the process of creating a new Cognizant channel to hold our future webinars. So once we get all of that set up, we'll be sure to share the details for that channel as well. Okay, and with that, I'll hand it over to Stuart to walk us through our agenda for today.
Thanks, Megan. So today we're reviewing the enhancements in version 20.07. These enhancements we have additional user field functionality. You're able to create lists and be able to select from drop-down lists in the user field. We also have improved results from product search. You're able to go in and select the value of some of those user fields, any of the values that put in. So it makes it handy to go and find your products. We added all these user fields to master scheduling. Originally, we had about 8 user fields, and then last year, in 1907, we added 20. So we had 28 user fields, but they were not added to the master scheduling screen. So in this version, we did add them. In Multiechelon, we have a new transfer order option. You're able to override the allocation to the supplier on hand, and we'll review that. And then there's a number of security improvements we've done to reduce vulnerabilities, and we'll go through those. So we're going to go through all of these enhancements. If you want more detailed descriptions, you could download the release notes from our support site there. And I'm now going to hand it over to Linda to go over the user fields.
Thanks, Stuart. Good afternoon, everybody. So we're very excited about all the changes and enhancements that have been made to our user-defined fields in this version, but also the previous versions. Users have been requesting these additional fields to improve their dashboard experience, but now not only, as Stuart mentioned, do we have the 28 new fields, but we've also expanded them across all the modules in this version, and the users have the ability to format them for the first time. So whether a user might be working in maps and product level forecasting, or if they're within forecasting and they need a field for something like Ensembl or color palette or other PLM quality related data, or in master scheduling fields to help create requisitions, that's now all available and to help improve their productivity. So there are 4 formatting options available when creating user-defined fields. So the first is a numeric field, which basically is just going to allow for the entry of numbers. Freeform, which is what we have today. You can enter any information at any time in any of those fields. You have 50 characters to choose from. List is basically where we will create a list of values, and that list of values will be available in a drop-down to ensure consistency with how data is entered. Sometimes within Freeform, you see blue written as BLU or, BLUE. Sometimes it's caps, sometimes it's little letters. And then there's an option called auto build list. So this is where you may, need an additional value. You don't want to take the time to go find an admin to add the value. So while you are working in the product wizard and entering the data for those fields, you can create that new value and it'll automatically add it to the list. So the formatting is all done within the admin module on the field label screen. And so one note within field labels, the first two user-defined fields, 1 and 2, are system reserved as numeric. So we use those in some instances for specific data, and so we have to ensure that we keep those reserved. But the screen, the user-defined field, will allow you to first go in and create that label or column. And then just to the right of it, and Stuart, I think we're one slide.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, Linda, I apologize because I don't know if I have that screen. So we'll go through it when we go through the dashboard review. So I apologize.
You're trying to mix me up here.
I am. I'm sorry.
No problem. So on the field label screen, users can go in like they have in the past. The first, you enter your label, or sometimes I hear people refer to it as the column header. And then just to the right of it, you'll have a drop-down box that'll allow you to pick the formatting options of what we just discussed. If the user type is a list, then on that screen at the bottom portion, they'll have the ability to go in and add new values. They could delete a value as well, as long as it isn't being used anywhere. And if it's auto list, they'll have the ability to add new values. And Stuart will demonstrate too how the auto list will automatically add values while users are entering data, and they can see it on this screen when they're in the application. So moving on, once an admin has created and set up the new user-defined field, the next step will be that you have to go to the product wizard column, and you need to add it to, whether it's to the product master, to the item master, and you do that through the product wizard screen. You can add, remove it. You determine whether the field is required or it's additional. And then within the product wizard screen, you can see that information when you're entering the value. So the next screen is just a quick copy and show you a snapshot of what the user-defined fields look like within the product Hotlist. So with this version, the user-defined fields in marketing offer setup have always been there, but they were formatted. So the formatting feature will be available within that screen as well. And then we expanded all the 28 user-defined fields within maps to product availability, to the product search, which is just a huge help when you go in and you're looking for data to have all those extra fields. Forecasting like products and comparable product search now has that functionality. And then within master scheduling, you can see the information in materials planning, in the hot lists, suggested purchase order. It's been added to vendor order review, transfer order review for Multiechelon, and then if people are still issuing manual requisitions, to the action list. So very helpful. We're now across the board. I have here another screen. This is just the product search screen within PLF. And so if you see, you go into product search, all the user-defined fields will now be available. You have the option. So in this particular example, you can see a user-defined field we set up called Ensembl. You have all the different ensembles that are available. You can use the drop-down to pick them. And then when you go in and do search, you'll be able to find just those few product codes without having to dig through hierarchy or vendor or something. You now have much more capability to refine your search and make your experience more productive. And when you move, go in, do your work, and use the next screen to just run through your list of product codes. One last step is all the new user-defined fields can be interfaced in your daily processes in the IP. And so if that is an option you want to consider, you want to make sure to go to the interface module, the dynamic IP screen, and you need to identify that the new user-defined fields will either be host-owned or application-owned. And so you go looking at the different, it would be the offer record, the product master, or the item master. So again, this is a great tool. I really encourage, clients that you guys talk to your users, figure out what fields on what screens would make their experience more productive, to be able to let them utilize the tool more often. Great opportunity to do a pizza lunch or a lunch and learn, but figure out what those are and then work with your IT team or internally to get that added. And I'm going to turn it over to Janine, who's going to talk about multi-echelon.
Thank you, Linda. All right, for those of you that are multi-echelon customers, we've added some additional functionality in regards to transfers. So currently how the system works is it suggests quantities to transfer and then allocates quantities to the various locations based on your warehouse allocation. So some locations have higher demand for certain products than others. So typically what will happen is not all the time the full suggested quantity will get allocated. If you have additional inventories on hand for the supplier on hand field that could technically go to that suggested transfer quantity, the system doesn't allow you to do that currently. So we've now given you the option to be able to do that. So if you have suggested quantities that the allocation is not meeting and you have additional inventories on hand, you will have the option to not use the allocated quantities and then use the quantities on hand from the supplier. So I gave a couple of examples, but the first one, you can see the suggested quantity is 100 units. The system only allocated 75, but I have 85 on hand for my supplier location. So if I choose this option, I can actually have 85 transfer. So I'll override that 75 allocation quantity, and it gets me closer to that 100, which was the original suggested quantity. So we've added this functionality to the transfer hotlist, the transfer order review screen, and the create transfer windows. So when we take a look at the transfer hotlist, you'll see that we've given an additional box and it says use supplier on hand. So when you check this box, you will be looking at overriding the allocated quantities. So it'll adjust and take what inventories we have on hand. So either it'll take whatever's available to try to meet that suggested transfer quantity. If there's more than enough, you'll get your full suggested quantity, and the system overrides that. When we were rehearsing our webinar, Linda had asked me, when you check the box, does it calculate automatically? So in the transfer hot list, when you check this box, you do need to retrieve this screen to see the recalculation in the actual quantities to transfer. For the transfer order review screen, on the next slide, please. Thank you. In this one, Linda, when you do check the use supplier on hand, it immediately recalculates the transfers for you. You do not need to retrieve. So I wanted to just share that with you. So again, if you want to, for your suggested your suggested transfer tab, if you choose to override the allocations to be able to send more inventory to your warehouse locations, you simply check this box. It will recalculate what inventories you have to recommend new transfers, and it will also make that adjustment for you down on the product grid.
And these checkboxes are user specific, right, Janine? So if the
Right.
user checked it, it's going to remain that way. And if they link from the hot list and have it checked, it will be checked here. So it's something to look at when you're going into your transfer order review to see whether it's checked or not.
Yes, excellent call out. Yes, the screens are saved to the user specific.
Right.
Yes, thank you. On the create transfer window, once you click validate and save or validate and hold, you get a window pop-up. So you've always had the option to align to the allocated quantities or retain quantities if you've made any manual adjustments. We've now added the additional align to supplier on hand. So if at some point you've gone in and made you've created this transfer and you're like, well, actually I might want to send more inventory to this location, you can choose to align to supplier on hand. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Megan.
Great, thanks Janine. Also included in this version, we have included 2 interface enhancements to help streamline your processes for you. The first is the ability to send product master comments through the data interfaces. So prior to this release, you could only add or modify those product master comments on the dashboard. So now with this new release, you have the ability to send these product master comments through the interfaces as part of the comments file. So that way you're just another additional way for you to manage the comments as well as streamline those comments between your systems. We've also introduced the interface error for invalid fiscal year. So previously, if you were to send an offer containing records from an undefined year in the fiscal calendar, that offer would have been created, but you would not have the ability to delete or open them in the marketing offer setup. So to avoid this situation, this has now put in place an error check that will then go through the process. If that offer is processed and we do not see a valid year set up in the fiscal calendar for that, instead of creating the offer, that record will then go into error and the offer will not be created, so that then you on the client side will have the ability to correct that offer yourself. We've also built onto our existing security features to add some additional improvements and options that you can define. The first one is in reference to the forget password function. So we now, with the upgrade, require that you define 3 security questions as opposed to the 1 security questions users were required to define before. These security questions are also stronger, now predefined questions that are built into the system. So you'll use the drop down and choose from the listing of questions available and then what your answer and response would be. So that when you then go through the password reset process, you'll be sent a password token. So this token will be sent to the user's email address so that they'll get the key, the token key that you'll enter in here. And then once you enter in the correct token key, the system is going to go through the 3 different security questions that define, choose one randomly for you to respond to, and then you'll be able to reset your password through the typical steps that you had in the past. We also built onto the lockout and the password requirements within the security screen as well. So with the account lockout policy, there is now the ability to limit the number of wrong attempts a user can have when they're entering in a security question. So the admin can define what is the max number of attempts that the user has. And then after that point, there will be a lockout time period, which is also defined here within the security screen. Along with that, we've also built in some additional stronger password requirements so that you can now define the particular length and composition standards for the password. So you can go in and then define what is the min or max characters for the password, as well as the particular characters that are required, such as letters, numbers, or special characters. And then you'll have the option of also defining a password expiration period. So whether it be something like after 60 or 90 days, my users must reset their password. So these are just additional options to help you provide some additional security with your own systems. Okay, and with that, I'll hand it over to Janine to continue on our security topic.
Great, thanks, Megan. So we have a restrict folder access in the file upload feature now. So this particular screen will now display the file names that are available for you to do any of the uploads, you can choose to select the file and click OK, or you can double click to access it. So we allow for image uploads in page maintenance and product wizard. The page maintenance is in our page analysis module. We allow JPEGs, the PNGs and BMPs are also allowed for the images. We have Excel uploads that are available in maps for your budgets and SKU pricing. In master scheduling, the MOQ and ROP if you're a suggested purchase order customer. Venture uploads for those that have venture. And then there's also the image bulk upload. So Excel uploads, we can take XLS, XLSX, and CSV files are allowed. For SaaS customers, we do allow you to set a particular path for an upload. This is the parameter setting that you would have, and the value for the parameter would be the path location. For downloading, now this is unique to SaaS clients. For currently, if you are exporting Excel, there's a few additional steps that need to take before you can actually save the document and access it. So what we've done now is we're giving you the option to use a parameter that would control that download path for you. The same as the previous screen, the actual value for the parameter would be that path location. And you would simply click on the Excel icon on any of your screens. You'll be advised that it was saved successfully, and it'll be in that location that you have set. Now, if you choose to use this download path, when you go into any kind of print preview, next slide, thanks, Stuart. The email and print options in the print preview screen are no longer available to you. So you would simply download this Excel to a particular location on your server and be able to access it for printing, emailing, etc., from your own system. And just to call out to those that are venture SaaS clients, we are also giving you that option to do that for any images or Excel exports that you want to do out of venture. So again, if you need help with these parameters and what that setting should be, by all means, reach out to us and we can help you with that. And with that, I'll pass it to Stuart for a live demo.
Thanks, Janine. Going into a sample dashboard, we go to administration field labels. These are where the user fields are. So Linda was talking, really going through this well. Unfortunately, I lost the slide for it, so I apologize to you all and Linda. So I want to go through what this looks like. So the user fields are here in field labels. Here's the product master, item master, and then offer. And this is used for filtering in PLF and also for reports. But primarily, I'm going to go through the product master. So this is the field. We have user field 1 through 28. And then the label. You've always had the ability to add a label to here. You might have something called group code or ensemble or holiday. And you could change the drop-down of these. You could change it to numeric, freeform, which is mostly what it is now, a list, or auto-build list. The first two you cannot change because we've always reserved user field 1 or 2 as numeric. But let's say I keep group code as user 4 as freeform, and I change ensemble to list. So you'll get a pop-up saying the list of values will be built from the existing user field values. Do you want to continue? And I say yes. So you could see that we did create some of these already. So these are already on some items, all these different ensembles that we have, all these different user fields. If I want to, I could go in here and I could add one and it'll add it to it. And then I could save and then that would be available. So when you go into the product wizard, you're going to have this drop-down list. So instead of having to remember to do this free-form typing and maybe spelling it wrong or making some error, it can now come from this list. If you go in here, you notice this is in yellow I can't delete this because it'll say the field values in use and can't be deleted. You'd actually have to go into the item itself and remove it. The ones in white, like I just created, that one I could go in and delete. So that's the list. The auto build list is a little different. The auto build list will show me the list of products. You could add products, but you could go in and actually enter that within the wizard, and then it'll add it to the list. So instead of someone in administration going in here, the users could go in and add it depending on which of these types. I'll show you this in Maps. So here we're in Maps. Here you could see some of our user fields. There's group code, ensemble, fabric. You could sort by these. You could also group by them, which is good because you could see the subtotals of these, and then open it up and expand it if you wanted to. But if I want to, I could go in here, right click, and go to the product master. So now I'm in the wizard and the product master, group code. I could just go in and just write in something freeform, since that's a freeform field. Ensemble should be my drop down. Did I not save the list? Oh, I think I know why. I didn't save. Okay. Now let's go in there and see if I'm able to do this from the wizard. I probably have to go out and go back in. All right, so let's go to Product Master. Now Ensemble is showing me the list, okay? You have to make sure that you do those saves, otherwise it won't show up here. So now I could go in and select these values. So again, you could go in there and select the ones that you set up here. So this is the list. Fabric is the auto build list. If I don't want that, I could actually add a new one. Maybe I'll put that in caps. And now I added that as an auto build, and the next user could go in and start adding to this. Now I hit next and finish, and it's saved. Now if I go back in here to the field labels, I might have to do a refresh. Now let's go to that free auto build list. And there you see, there's that denim. So again, auto build is good when the users are going in here and defining this. And list would be where the administrator wants to just limit it to a particular list. All right, I'm going to go to product level forecast and show you some of these search capabilities. So again, we could go to search. I could go to ensemble. I could pick a particular ensemble. And then I'm going to have everything in that ensemble. Notice this is the one that I just added to it. Probably not a good one because it's not really related to these products. So here I could go in and I could see this bath towel. This has this ensemble, and then I could hit next. So prior to this drop down, you'd have to actually go in if it was in the product status, or you'd have to be able to go in and enter that ensemble or whatever user field. So now on the drop down, it just makes it a lot easier to do this. All right, I'm going to go now to master scheduling and go to the product hot list. So you can see here you have, again, sorting. Here's all the different user fields that we added. And you could go into view and you could do your customize to start adding them. You can see all those that are there. And so the product master comments are in the product hot list, the item master in the SKU hot list. And if I double click to go to materials planning, I go to this miscellaneous section, actually to this product attribute section. And here I could see those product master fields, those user fields. If I go to a SKU level, I could see the product attributes and also the SKU attributes, which is the item master. All right, I'm going to go to the transfer hot list to review the new option. All right, so you see here I have use supplier on hand. I could either uncheck that and only use allocated quantity, or I check this and use supplier on hand. So you can see here the suggested is 48, allocated is 10, but my adjusted is 16. So the system's going to go in and use that 16. Before this version, you didn't have this option. If you don't check this, it'll just use allocated. But here, since 48 suggested, I may want to take all 16 for this location. And so when you check that, it'll use that information, it'll use that adjusted quantity. And then if I go here, I could create the transfer order. And the transfer order is going to show me my transfer quantity. So you see allocated, suggested, and transfer quantity. And if I go to validate and save or validate and hold, it's going to give me these choices to align to allocated, supplier on hand, or retain the quantity. And I'm just going to get out of here for now. All right, were there any questions that anyone had that they want me to review here on user fields or any of these enhancements?
Nothing has come through yet.
All right, then I'm going to go back to the presentation.
Yeah, if there are any other questions you're thinking of, just feel free to enter them in the Q&A icon now. And we'll begin wrapping up today's session. So next month we are scheduled for October 7th at 3 p.m. Eastern, and our webinar topic will be focused on in-season forecast adjustments, which we thought would be a timely topic as we approach the holiday season. If you have any particular adjustment questions or scenarios that you'd like us to cover during that time, please feel free to let us know, and we'll incorporate that into the webinar. All right, it doesn't look like we've had anything else come through. If you think of any questions, you can always email us with those as well, and we can address them. And if there's nothing more, then we'll wrap up for today. Again, we appreciate your time and spending it with us. We hope you found this valuable, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.